5:45 a.m. Ilovaisk Railway Junction, occupied Donetsk. The sun is not yet risen, but the tracks are humming under the weight of a massive Russian armored train. 50 reinforced wagons, stuffed to the brim with 152mm artillery shells, grind to a halt. This is the Kremlin's ironclad solution to their logistics nightmare, a rolling fortress guarded by the best air defenses money can buy. But right now, high above the clouds, a coordinate has been locked in. Time to impact. 4 seconds. 3, 2. Instantly, the darkness is ripped apart by a blinding flash that mimics a tactical nuke. A fireball swells outward, vaporizing the locomotive and triggering a cascading detonation that registers on seismographs in Rostov. 60-ton railcars are tossed into the air like cheap plastic toys. If you think this was just random luck, you are about to learn a brutal lesson in precision warfare. Stay focused, because the physics of this destruction are not just impressive. They are a calculated humiliation that signals the end of Russian rail dominance. To understand the sheer magnitude of this humiliation, we first have to appreciate the fortress Moscow built around the shipment. They didn't just send a train, they sent a rolling Death Star designed to intimidate anyone foolish enough to look at it. Leading the convoy is the legendary Yenisei armored train, a heavy beast draped in 20mm of hardened steel and bristling with Zu-232 anti-aircraft guns that scream death at 2,000 rounds per minute. Circling overhead like a paranoid vulture is the Ka-52 Alligator, a $16 million flying tank equipped with radar that can allegedly spot a rabbit from 10 miles away. But the truly scary part is what you can't see. The Lear-3 electronic warfare system is flooding the airwaves, creating an invisible dome of static designed to fry the brains of any drone and turn smart missiles into dumb rocks. It is a terrifying display of brute force, a seemingly unbreakable wall of iron and electrons. If you were a betting man looking at this setup, you would say hitting this train is mission impossible. But here is the catch that the Russian planners missed while patting themselves on the back. Let's peel back the heavy steel skin and look at the receipt, because this is where the tears really start flowing for the Kremlin accountants. Inside those 50 heavily guarded wagons sits a literal king's ransom in high explosives. We are talking about thousands of crates of premium 152mm artillery shells and stacks of Grad rockets, the bread and butter of their invasion strategy. Conservative estimates from Western intelligence put the cargo value alone at well over $200 million. Add in the customized TE-33, a locomotive, and the specialized armored escorts, and you are staring at a $250 million investment rolling on 2 rails. This is not just a supply run, it is the entire monthly military budget of a mid-sized republic compressed into a single line. For the Russian generals, this cargo is the lifeblood of their offensive in the Donbass, a too-big-to-fail asset. For Ukraine, it represents the single most juicy target of opportunity in the entire sector, a winning lottery ticket just waiting to be cashed in. But wait, there is one more layer to this financial disaster. The trap did not spring with a bang, but with a whisper that the Russians completely possessed. While the armored train sat heavy on the tracks, confident in its invincible bubble, a Ukrainian operator 10 miles away gently tossed a Leleka 100 drone into the air. This isn't a Predator, it's a glorified radio-controlled airplane that costs less than a used Honda Civic. But here is the genius detail. Strapped to its underbelly is a Lüneburg lens, a simple geometric reflector that tricks sophisticated radar into thinking this piece of plastic is a massive fighter jet. On the Russian screens inside the Lear-3 electronic warfare vehicle, the sky suddenly lit up with a terrifying high-priority threat. The screen didn't show a plastic toy. It showed a bomber coming in for a kill run. Panic, predictable and electric, surged through the Russian comms. Stay focused, because how this ends is a masterclass in making the grizzly bear blink first. The Russian commander, staring at the blips, made the fatal decision to scramble his air cover. The Ka-52 Alligator, that $16 million Predator, roared its engines and banked hard to the left, leaving its defensive station above the train to chase a ghost in the clouds. It was exactly what the Ukrainians wanted, the separation of the shepherd from the sheep. But the deception didn't stop there. From the tree line, a swarm of cheap DIY cardboard drones, literally made of foam and wax paper, buzzed towards the train like angry mosquitoes. These weren't designed to destroy, they were designed to annoy. They flew erratically, dipping and diving, forcing the heavy Zu-232 guns on the train to traverse frantically. If you were the commander of that battery, staring at a dozen incoming targets, what would your next move be? Would you hold your fire and risk being hit? Or would you unleash hell? The Russians chose the latter. The silence of the morning was shattered as the twin-barrel autocannons opened up, spewing walls of lead into the sky. Tracers lit up the dawn, tearing through the mist, hunting down targets that were barely worth the fuel used to fly them. It was a spectacular display of firepower, loud, bright, and terrifyingly expensive. But here's the catch that makes this mission a masterpiece. Every round they fired, every barrel they heated up, and every degree the helicopter turned away was a variable being entered into a Ukrainian firing solution. The Russians were fighting a phantom menace, exhausting their readiness on cheap distractions, while the real executioner waited patiently in the wings. Most people see a drone swarm and think attack, but those with a sharp tactical mind will recognize this for what it really is. A matador waving a red cape to tire out the bull before the sword comes down. The airspace was now filled with smoke, noise, and confusion, the perfect cover for the true nightmare to begin its approach. The smoke clears, and the silence that returns to the ERASED junction is broken only by the sound of raucous laughter. The gunners on the armored train are climbing down from their mounts, high-fiving and chest-bumping like a football team that just won the Super Bowl. They look at the burning scraps of cardboard on the tracks and see a glorious victory against the technologically advanced NATO forces. It is a scene of supreme, unearned confidence. One sergeant, perhaps emboldened by the adrenaline or maybe a sip of something stronger from a hidden flask, lights a cigarette and leans casually against a wagon packed with enough explosives to reshape the local geography. They are padding the warm steel of the Zu-232 seconds, treating these guns like saviors, completely oblivious to the fact that they are currently the stars of a comedy show being watched by Ukrainian drone operators. But here is the twist that makes this scene painful to watch for anyone with an IQ over room temperature. These soldiers are celebrating a financial disaster. They just expended thousands of rounds of 23mm ammunition, hard currency in a war of attrition, to destroy a fleet of flying toys that wouldn't even qualify for a high school science fair. It is the military equivalent of burning down your own house to kill a spider. But folks, here is the lethal error hiding in this celebration. Stay with me, because the physics of what they just did is about to kill them. By firing continuously at the swarm, they have heated the barrels of their anti-aircraft guns to a critical temperature. The metal is expanded, the rifling is soft, and for the next 20 minutes, those guns are statistically useless, expensive lawn ornaments. They have blinded themselves with their own smoke and deafened their own sensors. The Russian command is broadcasting reports of a successful repelling of an enemy air raid, completely unaware that the raid hasn't even started yet. The decoys were not the main event. They were just the opening act designed to drain the batteries and overheat the barrels. While the Russians are busy congratulating themselves and taking selfies with the wreckage, the real threat has finished its calculations. The coordinates are locked, the trap is shut, and the celebration is about to be interrupted by a visitor that doesn't care about cardboard or propaganda. 30 miles away, buried deep within a dense tree line, the air is unnaturally still. There is no laughter here, no vodka, and definitely no chest thumping. Inside the armored cab of an M142 HIMARS, the atmosphere is as cold and sterile as a hospital operating room. 3 Ukrainian operators are not fighting with adrenaline. They are fighting with mathematics. They have watched the drone feed, observed the Russians exhaust their ammunition on cardboard toys, and waited for the exact microsecond when the enemy's guard is lowest. "Solution locked," the commander whispers. He isn't guessing. He knows the wind speed, air density, and the rotation of the Earth. With a single button press, the forest floor shudders. Not with a roar, but with a violent whoosh as a single pod erupts from the launcher. This isn't the standard rocket artillery the Russians are used to dodging. This is the GLSDB, the ground-launched small-diameter bomb, a terrifying hybrid of American rocket, muscle, and aerospace gliding precision. Stay focused, because the physics of what happens next is what separates 20th century brawlers from 21st century assassins. The rocket motor screams into the sky, punching through the cloud layer in seconds, carrying its payload to 30,000 feet. To the Russian radars just coming back online, it looks like a standard ballistic arc that will overshoot. But here is the engineering genius that the Russian manuals didn't prepare them for. At the peak of its flight, the loud, hot rocket motor suddenly detaches and falls away. The warhead doesn't just fall, it transforms. Diamond-shaped wings snap open like a switchblade, and the weapon shifts from a clumsy ballistic missile into a predatory glider. It is now silent, cold, and virtually invisible. While the Russians down below are scanning the horizon for smoke trails, the GLSDB is soaring high above, banking through air currents like an eagle spotting a mouse. It rides kinetic energy with terrifying grace. Inside its electronic brain, GPS satellites update its position 10 times a second, adjusting control surfaces to correct for wind drift as small as a few inches. It is a flying robot with a single purpose: to deliver a thermobaric handshake to that locomotive. Russian radars, looking for high-speed, hot projectiles, are blind to this small, cold glider drifting in from a steep angle. It is the ultimate sucker punch, a threat that whispers instead of screams. Gravity takes over. The glider noses down, converting potential energy into terminal velocity. It is no longer floating, it is diving. The target is painted. The train is sitting there, a fat, immobile duck. As the GLSDB pierces the lower cloud deck, the time for Russian prayers has officially run out. The terminal phase is terrifyingly silent. The Russian train commander, hearing a strange whistle over the idling diesel, looks up. But physics grants no time to process the shape diving from the clouds. Time to impact. 3 seconds, 2, 1. The GLSDB slams into the TE-33, a locomotive not with a bang, but with a kinetic punch of steel moving at Mach 1. The delay fuse triggers milliseconds later deep inside the engine block. The initial explosion is surgical, shredding the locomotive. But wait, that was just the match being struck. The real event begins when that thermal violence travels backward into the first wagon of 152mm shells. Stay with me, because this is where chemistry takes a dark turn. The heat and pressure instantly trigger a sympathetic detonation. In 1/1,000,000th of a second, the solid explosives inside thousands of shells transition into high-pressure gas. The result is not an explosion. It is a vaporization event. A fireball of superheated plasma expands outward at 8,000 meters per second, creating a Mach stem effect where the shockwave reflects off the ground, doubling the pressure. 50 wagons don't just burn, they atomize. The steel chassis of the train doesn't break, it liquefies. From the drone's perspective, the screen turns white. The shockwave is visible as a distortion ring punching through the humid air, moving faster than sound. It hits the Ka-52 helicopter still circling blindly and snaps its rotors like dry twigs, tossing the $16 million machine out of the sky like a dead bird. On the ground, the Lear-3 EW system is simply erased, its delicate electronics fused into glass-like slag. The overpressure creates a vacuum intense enough to collapse lungs a half-mile away. When the smoke finally clears, there is no train. There are no tracks. There is only a smoking crater large enough to swallow a house, a black scar where a logistics empire used to be. The train didn't derail, it was deleted from existence. Now that the dust has settled, let's pull out the calculator and perform a forensic audit of this disaster. If you think the explosion was loud, wait until you hear the screams from the Kremlin's finance department. On the Russian ledger, this is a total write-off. The Ka-52 Alligator, $16 million of twisted scrap. The Lear-3 EW complex, another $10 million. The custom armored train with its TE-33A locomotives, irreplaceable assets worth easily $50 million. And the cargo thousands of 152mm shells is a loss of hundreds of millions. We are staring at a $250 million smoking hole in the ground. Now, look at the Ukrainian receipt. The Leleka 100 decoy? Maybe 10 grand. The cardboard drones powered by lawnmower engines? A few $1,000 from a hobby shop? The GLSDB munition that delivered the kill shot? About $40,000. Total cost of the operation? Less than a fully loaded luxury SUV. Ukraine just destroyed a strategic logistics hub for pennies on the dollar. This isn't just a military victory, it is an economic massacre. They traded loose change for the Kremlin's credit card limit. That is an ROI of nearly 0%. There isn't a hedge fund manager on Wall Street who wouldn't kill for those returns. But the real cost isn't money, it is time. The rail line is severed. The ammo that frontline soldiers were desperate for is now dust in the stratosphere. Russia can print rubles, but they cannot print time, and they certainly cannot 3D print a new armored train overnight. This was a checkmate that used brains to dismantle Braun, proving that being big just makes you a bigger target. So here is the question for the comments section. If you were the Russian general in charge tomorrow morning, what is your excuse? Do you admit you were outsmarted by cardboard planes and a glider? Or do you lie and blame a massive NATO airstrike to save your dignity? Let me know your move below.